I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will move into our consensus agenda.
Okay, I move that we approve the vouchers for the last month. 2 voucher runs, 3 payrolls. Vouchers are $627,744.59. Payrolls are $737,813.63. We do have some voids, etc. Total expenditures for the month, $1,362,958.22. And I also move we approve the minutes from our last meeting.
It's been moved by Steve, second by Wes. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Patrons' comments. I assume there's no patrons' comments. If not, we will move on to personnel.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and separate these so Mr. Stichter doesn't have to abstain from both. So we're going to go ahead and recommend the approval of the retirement of Mrs. Stichter as a junior senior high school teacher at the end of the 24-25 school year.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Kevin, seconded by Wes. Any discussion?
She'll be missed.
Yep, I'd like to thank Mrs. Stichter. Before she was a permanent math teacher, she was a long-time sub here. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 3-0-1.
Is she gonna sub next year? You don't know yet.
Not for public discussion.
That's not for public discussion right now.
Too early to think about it.
Okay.
It's been thought about.
Are we good? All right. I'd like to recommend the retirement of Teresa Watkins as a 6th grade teacher at the end of the 24-25 school year as well.
Move we approve that retirement.
Second.
Moved by Steve, seconded by Kevin. Any discussion?
Also will be missed.
Yes.
Great science teacher. All in favor? Motion passes 4-0.
And I do just want to follow up to echo what Wes said, just thank them for their efforts. We do have in our collective bargaining agreement an opportunity for them to retire by February 1. That does give us time to post that and just know what we're trying to fill by the time the end of the year comes. So that is an incentive of $1,500, which I know is chump change compared to the whole thing, but in the end, both of those would qualify because they did turn their letters in before that February 1, even though we're approving them in the February board meeting. So I just want to make note of that. So, all right, I'd like to recommend the approval of Josh Alcindor as the 7th grade girls basketball volunteer coach, and also Taryn Meister as the 7th grade girls basketball volunteer coach.
What about Mr. Thompson?
I was just putting those,
Oh, the
the
basketball.
volunteers together. They were split on the agenda, but Jayla is not able to go to the tournament this weekend, and so they're going to be stepping in for her. So wanted to make sure that we approve those.
So moved. Second.
Been moved by Kevin, seconded by Steve. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 4-0.
All right, I'd like to recommend the approval of Jason Thompson as the junior high wrestling supervisor.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Steve, seconded by Wes. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 4-0.
I'd like to recommend the approval of Rachel Watkins as the junior senior high school PE and health teacher. She's off to a wonderful start, doing a great job.
So moved. Second.
Been moved by Kevin, seconded by Steve. Any discussion?
Just thanks, guys, for working that out, getting that taken care of. I know it took a while, but appreciate your efforts.
I heard some of the kids are sore already after the first week, so that's good.
Yeah, definitely switching some things up. Accountability is there, for sure.
All in favor? Motion passes 4-0.
I think it's good to note in the gap, obviously unintended consequences of decisions, but Mr. McCann, Mr. Yarbrough, Mr. Watkins, taken 0 hour ever since November. I was in there too, but So when I say the consistency piece, we really appreciate the consistency piece of somebody else showing up every morning there, and just making that a really, really legit program. So I think it's headed in the right direction. It's definitely nice to turn that page. So, but I do want to give a shout out to those that kept it going for our kids. Albeit as good as we could possibly do it, it's better now. So I want to thank them. We approve that, we're good? All right, I'd like to recommend the approval of Jason Arvison as the junior high girls wrestling coach.
I move that we do that. So moved.
Second?
Been moved by Steve, second by Wes. Any discussion?
Just want to thank him for getting the girls' program off the ground.
Did a
Doing a
good
great
job.
job. Super
Appreciate that
successful
very
in year
much.
one, absolutely.
All in favor? Motion passes 4-0.
I'd like to recommend the approval of Patrick Rewall as a substitute teacher. He has subbed before, has then now gone through the new process of just meeting and going over those expectations, and he's bored and wants to come back, so.
Okay. So moved. Second.
Been moved by Kevin, second by Steve. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 4-0.
Last but not least, I'd like to recommend the approval of the concession manager wages, and this is just to formalize the process as it relates to how much per game and how many games and all of that stuff. So just making sure that that's formalized and running through payroll, and making sure that that's accounted for.
I'll formally make that motion.
Second.
Been moved by Kevin, second by Steve. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. On to other business.
All right, I have two here, and I'll go ahead and lump those together. The second reading and adoption of policy 36, number 2, September, and then the Edgar UGG policy, September 24, policy volume number 37, and then November 2024. And recommend the approval of the Trafera quote for the 294 Chromebooks for a total of $87,318 that are replacement of those ones that are every few grade levels and the ones that are up for changeover.
I move we approve both of those items.
Been moved by Steve, second by Wes. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. On to superintendent's report.
All right, I have intentionally tried to stay away from a lot of names, so I'll let the building levels do
Nate
their
said he
thing.
didn't come with anything tonight.
Right, so now we're gonna miss out on that. Continuous improvement, I just wanna kind of highlight some of the committees. Continuous improvement, our definition for that, as good as we are, we know we can always achieve better results. We constantly try to find better ways doing our work, and when we achieve our goals, we set higher targets. And so there's a lot of people that are behind those goals, those targets. So I'm just highlighting some of the committees that are active every month or every week. And so I'm just gonna name some of those and give maybe some highlights to those. So building level discussions, that's the Triton Teachers Association. Those take place every month. And that is the Teachers Association and our administrators sitting down and talking about how we can continue to improve our buildings. The same thing happens at the corporation level. We have leadership teams, so that's all the departments, so transportation, technology, maintenance. Our building level leaders are there. Tom, when it comes to finance, making sure we're all in the room and can have conversations as those topics overlap. We have principal team meetings, grade and department team meetings, emergency preparedness teams. Textbook adoption team has been hard at work, and I'll highlight them actually in another section of just working through textbooks that are going to be used with our kids for the next 6 years. And sometimes you get to the end of that process and it's not exactly what you want, and you don't want to spend $235,000, $250,000, $290,000 on a textbook that isn't going to get you the results that you're looking for. Which is something that they just went through. So SLC accountability, Carrie Orlowski has been a rock star when it comes to the accountability and just meeting our kids where they're at and organizing that each week and making sure those kids that are having trouble in a certain subject are getting the help that they need during that student learning community time. PK Alliance, so Preschool Kindergarten Alliance. Preschool is talking to our kindergartners, what can we continue to do to get better, and how we can prepare kids for them coming to Triton Elementary School. Student assistance teams, that's kind of the pathway or the conversation before we get to special education testing, but that takes place nearly every week, just depending on how many kids are in the hopper there. Student councils have been extremely active, the Student Life Foundation, this board. And so I just want to thank you guys and so many other individuals who make it a point each day or at least monthly to contribute to oversight, to making Triton, our systems, procedures, and decisions fiscally and ethically accountable, and continuously seeking to improve. So just a lot of people that it takes to make sure we're on the right path, and I just want to give some of those a shout out. I'm sure I missed some. The building levels could probably mention some more of those, but in the end, I just want to say thank you to those. Shared leadership, Triton Student Life Foundation is presenting Comedy for a Cause, starring David Dean. If you've never heard David Dean, he is a clean comedian. He's going to do an awesome job, and it's going to be a great night for our community, hoping to get a lot of people out. Those tickets are $50 ahead of time. There'll be $60 at the door, but all of that money goes to the Student Life Foundation, who are continuing to try to improve the students' lives as they're in our care. So that will be in replace of the gala this year. So we're not doing a gala. We'll probably try to do that every other year, as to not, I guess, make that not as novel. But get your tickets starting, I guess that was earlier announcement, but those are on sale at both buildings. They're also on sale at the town clerk's office and the administrative building. So that event is April 5th, as soon as that Saturday after we get back from spring break. So that should be a really, really good time. The Shining Stars are going to be opening up our program, along with a preview into the Addams Family, which is the play that's going to be taking place. So you get to see some of our kids performing, and then David Dean will take the stage and make everybody laugh. Social responsibility, we have three students, Sierra Hawley, Clara Dahl, Macy Carson right now, who are members of the Kosciuszko Youth Leadership Academy, that are working on Pop-Up for a Purpose. Collecting items, adult and kids' clothing, hygiene items, craft supplies, and that's all going to be going to the Cardinal Center of Kosciuszko County, so that's their project. And if you have looked at the Kosciuszko County Chamber website, or if you've looked at our website and or social media post, that has been posted, and they're working through an interview talking about that. So awesome service project. Accountability, so hang tight here. I just want to touch base on winter weather. And so just talk a little bit about a game plan here. This information will be worked through with our staff on Thursday. If you haven't looked at the weather, Wednesday night into Thursday morning, they're calling for some weather. So even as we discuss this, we don't know what Thursday is going to look like for that delayed start day, but it is hard to predict. Winter weather is hard to predict, especially when creating a calendar a year in advance. Our corporation's stance on digital learning days has been and remains that days of digital learning is not a great instructional option. This is why our responses to these days need to be made up are to plan a digital learning day on a Saturday. Now, I want to clarify, this is not Saturday school, okay? And so what we are going to try to do, we're obviously going to have conversations with our staff. We'll be having conversations with our students on exactly what that looks like. The day that will be counted will be the Saturday. That day will be named, but in the end, those students will have up until Wednesday or Thursday to complete those assignments. So we will come out with more details on those items. We are still in conversation with the State Department of Ed, and Georgia Watson is her name when it comes to the accountability and the waiver that was approved last year. So Tom and I will be meeting with her at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning to get more details on exactly what that waiver is going to be able to cover. So more information to come, but I do want to make sure we're talking about this. So it will be considered a Saturday. This is not a Saturday school, but an asynchronous day, which means the teacher doesn't have to be teaching the entire day, right? It can actually be lessons that are given, it can be review lessons, it can be assignments that are given to continue to extend instruction, right? Digital learning day of is awfully difficult because you got to think of devices, you got to think of who has Wi-Fi, who doesn't, you got to think of are they staying with their grandparents? Are their parents home? Are they at work? There's a lot of factors that go into saying that's probably not the greatest place for good instruction. And so this does allow us to plan a little bit ahead of time. Planning this ahead of time allows for continuation of instruction, gives families the ability to plan ahead, and gives a greater chance our younger students will have the support at home, unlike if it's the day of e-learning day where they may not have Wi-Fi or family to help guide them through. More information will be forthcoming about the possible designated days of asynchronous digital learning. This will be communicated through school messenger email and likely reinforced by classroom teachers with individual and more detailed instruction for the child, which may be communication through Mind, maybe communication through Google Meet, those type of things. Each teacher may do that just a little bit differently, but in the end, still meeting the goal of getting that day in. I have included with or at your place setting here the Digital Learning Day DLD Saturday lesson expectations. That will be once again reviewed with our staff, reviewed with our students, and that will also be shared with parents in the coming days. Okay. Any questions on that or building level leaders as we've discussed? Any thing that I missed there?
If we have a delay on Thursday, how does that affect?
If we have a delay on Thursday, we will not have our delayed start. So we'll just come our normal day. And the building levels have already sent out emails to their staff to say we will be having a staff meeting. I think both of you guys said Tuesday, right, of next week. Is that right? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking? Yeah.
We'll still get the message out, even if we can't do it on Thursday, we'll get it out.
The document that's in front of you has been shared by both building level leaders as well with those bullets to say, come with questions, look it over. This is not new, but there are definitely some staff members that weren't here when we have done it in the past. If you recall, our waiver days have covered nearly 3 to 5 days each of the last few years. We think it's probably going to be the same this year, but the fact is it's only the second week of February, and so we're bracing for what could be, knowing that there's another storm coming and possibly more. So we just want to make sure we're prepared and having those conversations now. We don't like the thought of digital learning, but in the end, we also have to have a plan, so we don't like the plan of instruction in June either, so. All right, high expectations. I want to congratulate Connor Stetzel on his third place finish at regional and his bid for IHSAA semi-state wrestling meet at East Chicago. So congratulations to Matt as well. I know he had a lot of wrestlers that he was really looking forward to not come out, and so that could have been really defeating. But in the end, he put a ton of time and effort into those that were there and committed. 5 kids, I believe, made it to regional, maybe 1 alternate, and then a semi-state bid. So that's pretty awesome. So congratulations to Matt and those wrestlers. Alignment, I want to take this portion of our core values to thank the textbook committee, as I mentioned earlier, led by Melissa LaSure for their work on trying to find the best curriculum possible for our students and going the extra mile to gather data to support a good curriculum and make sure that there are not red flags moving forward. So we did experience some red flags when it came to data of the schools that have already implemented some of the ones that we were looking at. Also, some of the stories and maybe some of the ways that those would connect with our students just wasn't probably best. And so we are reconsidering that and continuing forward with trying to find the best curriculum possible. So that takes a lot of time, and then you get to the end and it's not exactly what you had hoped for. That's pretty frustrating, but they're going through a really rigorous process there. Evidence-based decision-making. Shortly after our students graduate in June, we will begin work on the Triton Elementary roof. This is not in ill repair. However, it has been showing signs of wear and in a proactive need of replacement based on the age of the current roof solution, and 2 facility audits that have been done since our board retreat in June. where it received the top priority for this summer's work and bond funds. The entire roof will be removed and replaced with a similar system that the high school received a few years back. Instructional areas will be worked on this summer. We have been in conversation, obviously the bids go out this Thursday, but we have been in conversation with Barton Cove Villama about the fact is that we have summer school going on in the primary wing of the elementary school. So hopefully start in the intermediate wing and then transition after that 3-week summer school, just to minimize the distraction on instruction as much as possible. The remainder of the roof will be completed in the fall, if that much time is needed. Timelines for completion of the section 1 and 2, which is the primary wing and the intermediate wing, will be June 1st to August 4th, while the remainder of the roof, the office, gym, cafeteria, music, boiler room, will be scheduled to be completed by October 1. So if, as the summer comes, we'll see that work starting to happen, but just trying to proactively get ahead of that and make sure that our buildings are dry.
That
And
will not affect instruction in those areas.
so they said, I mean, we're going to try to avoid that. Intermediate wing, there will not be instruction during the month of
I'm
June.
talking about after. It's the office, the gym, the music.
Yeah, so I mean, will the office possibly hear drills? Possibly, right? But that's why we're trying to do the main instruction wings during the summertime. I have a feeling it's going to go a lot faster than maybe what they're predicting, is my hope. But in the end, the areas the only concern I probably have is the music room, right? Because that's a low roof, but then also instruction happens in there, but it's also not that big of a space, so that should be a pretty quick fix. So Brian did share that, hey, if we want to make that a priority once we're done with the primary and intermediate wings, we can try to do that, but obviously sequence of where they're at and what they have to move it plays a factor into that. So, but those conversations are being had. That bid goes out, and then of course we'll be, working through the details with that contractor when that bid is given. So,
Thank you. Any patrons comment? Oh, sorry, were you done?
yeah, I'd be glad to take any questions if there are any.
If patrons comments? If not, we will go on to building reports.
Good evening. Tomorrow, we start DARE. We were supposed to do that last week, but because of our cancellation, we didn't get it, we weren't able to. But our next date up was tomorrow, so Officer Watkins and Officer Amston are going to be doing that for our 5th grade classrooms. So that's starting tomorrow. Weather permitting, on Thursday, we'll have a delayed start PD. We're fortunate to be able to borrow our tech integration coaches, Zach Schaefer from the high school and Samantha Phoenix, who will be giving us a little bit background in artificial intelligence, and really that's kind of carrying through some of the high school conversations that have been going on for the past year and a half. It's going to catch us up a little bit, maybe give us some tools to experiment with, but so that we can all be on the same page moving forward. Our instructional assistants are going to be part of that initial conversation, but they're also working with Jonna Snyder. I'd like to thank Jonna. She's one of our long-term aide and very, very good communicator, and does a great job working with our aides, and she's agreed to do that this year and in our late start PD, and has done a good job with them. So I appreciate that. Also, we're going to be talking about the Digital Learning Day and just kind of brush up on what we're going to do there, answer any questions, and then if we have to use those. And if not, we'll follow up that conversation on Tuesday. We have some people going away later this month. Grade 2 is going to visit the Studebaker Museum, and 6th graders are going to go to BizTown and flex their community and financial muscles, applying some things that they've been learning here in social studies. And then early March, we're going to have see 2nd and 3rd graders taking iRead 3, which will be interesting. First time our 2nd graders will have done that, so we're anxious to see what that looks like. And then Mr. Long's going to be taking grades 4, 5, and 6 bowling coming up pretty soon too. As Mr. Riffle mentioned, we are still working on reading adoption, language arts, looking at what that looks like for our building. It is a huge investment in time for those who teach it, and at our building, it's everybody, and so everybody has a stake in that, in what we get for reading and how we're going to teach it, and hopefully for the best student outcomes we possibly can. So we're still working hard at that, trying out lessons in the classroom, and so forth, and hoping that we'll be able to choose something, and if not, at least have a direction to go to, if not the following year, so that we don't make any decisions and have buyer's remorse. We don't want that. Okay? That's pretty much everything right now. If you have any questions.
Okay, for the junior, senior high school, we have our second incentive trip coming up on February 20th, and that incentive trip will be Sky Zone and then also Strikes and Spares. And we had approximately 90 students that have qualified for that incentive trip. So, and that's kind of a buildup of the whole first semester. We look at grades, we look at attendance, we look at discipline, and the students that met that requirement. Should be fun. February 13th, I know Ms. Cook was talking about that. We have a variety of things planned for our staff. One of those being talking about the digital learning options. I'm sure that'll bring up some good discussion, but like I said, just a variety of topics being discussed that day. I want to bring up Advantage, our alternative program that we have here in town that we partner with Argus, and I just kind of want to give it a plug because I think that is working for some of our kids that were just not being successful in the walls of Triton Junior Senior High School. So kudos to Sarah Edmonds and the work that they're doing down there. We've had students that are not only caught up on credits, but are getting ahead and just are going to have the opportunity to graduate that probably wouldn't have been graduating. So I've been really proud of that program. We've been having a lot of new diploma conversations, and I think the last time I gave a board report, I'd mentioned we're going to start meeting with individual teachers and departments, and we've been able to go through those, through most of those meetings and have some really good conversation as far as here's what the changes are that we know of, knowing that there's still more changes to come, but just letting staff know what those are. How does that impact them individually? How does it impact their department? And then start planning for some of those changes together as a staff. So those conversations will continue. Want to give a shout out to our band and then also our choir as they went to ISMA contest the past couple weeks, and they represented Triton very well. So proud of them. Connor Stetzel, again, want to congratulate him on his success so far, and good luck as he moves on to semi-state. We're in homecoming week, so today was PJ Day. I forgot it was PJ Day. We have Camo Print Day tomorrow. We have Jersey Day Wednesday, College Day Thursday, and Pink and Purple Day Friday. So, and then next week we have FFA week, which has a whole other set of spirit days. So, February 19th we have freshman orientation. So we encourage our incoming freshmen, our current 8th graders and their parents to please come to that meeting. Again, we have a lot of good information to share with them about just some of those diploma changes. And then after that, we will hopefully wrap up junior high scheduling for the next year. That's been kind of put on hold with just some of the changes. So, but yeah, the year's cruising by. Questions? Yeah.
The incentive trip, you said we had 90 kids. Is that number going up as we proceed down the road with this incentive program?
It's been about that number every time. So yeah, we see about half of our kids going on those trips. So
The right answer would be yes.
We want to get
I think the thing I would point out is what's fun is when you see that student that maybe has struggled, and that's their motivator. And when you see that kid, just the excitement on their face that their name is on that list that they get to go, and maybe they haven't in the past, I think you see it click with certain kids. life also happens with the attendance piece that prevents some kids to go, and we know that, but we still try and have the bar set high, because we know it's attainable, but we also know life happens, so there are some things that do keep some of our kids from going. That doesn't mean they're a bad kid, doesn't mean they're doing anything wrong, it's just that's the circumstance, so.
I think that is important to talk about, Nate, so I appreciate you bringing that up. Mr. Boyer asked us, hey, what's the struggle with that? And that looks really fun and neat and cool, right? But in the end, there are some tough discussions that come along with that, of not meeting that expectations, but also not every kid gets the trophy, right? And to say we have to kind of stand firm on some of those expectations, or it'll just be it really won't mean much, because everybody will kowtow to just whatever happens. So you have had to have some tough conversations when it comes to that, and I appreciate that, and that's difficult, because you want everybody to go.
So again, the first incentive trip was kind of based on that first 9 weeks, and I think they could miss 2 days of school. They had to have no failing grades, so we looked at the grades. They had to have a C average, and they couldn't have, I think at that time, it was no more than one referral to the office, regardless of the reason. No in-school suspension, no out-of-school suspension, those are automatic, you're out. Well, then that built onto this one. So, I mean, it's just built on itself. Now they couldn't have more than 4 absences. Well, that's less than half of what our attendance requirement is. So, again, kids getting sick, life happens. Sometimes those decisions are out of our kids' hands. But, yeah, we've had to have some tough conversations of why this kiddo didn't make it. It was probably nothing that they did wrong. It was just that was the criteria, and we try and stick to it. And so, yeah, we've had to have some tough conversations, and but, yeah.
Making it even more meaningful when that kid does overcome some of those obstacles and gets to go, right?
It is, yes.
So,
I agree.
yep.
Thank you. If there's no other business, we will move to adjourn at 7:32.